Before I sum up, because we are ahead of time, and we did sign an agreement here yesterday with the Office of Commonwealth Ombudsman. It was largely a ceremonial thing which we did yesterday, but Mike Woodhead, who is from the Ombudsman's office, he asked and I agreed that he give a bit more explanation as to what that means for Pacific Islands. So it will only take 10 minutes while Corinne prepares the summary which we're going to put on the overhead. If Mike, you would like to take the opportunity to do that brief explanation. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Parmesh. I didn't prepare, I just offered to fill in a gap when we were running very, very fast. So, and I don't need coffee because I'm already 81 years of age and I have this wonderful face cream that makes me look much younger. So, not quite. And thank you for the opportunity. I'm the program manager for what's called the Commonwealth Ombudsman of Australia's Pacific Governance and Anti-Corruption Program. Anti-corruption work is not really a standard inclusion in ombudsman work, although good governance and good public administration, of course, reduces the chances of corruption in any sort of field. This program has been funded by the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade under what's called the Government Partnerships for Development Fund, which funds specific projects mainly within the Pacific region. It's part of the larger program within the UN Pacific Regional Anti-Corruption Program, or UNPRAC, which seeks to help countries sign up to the UN Convention Against Corruption. The program's funding until June 2018. And its specific aims are to develop activities to support and strengthen Ombudsman, Auditors General and other integrity agencies to combat corruption in the Pacific. The key partners and stakeholders are the UNDP, the UN Office of Drugs and Crime, or UNODC, the Pacific Islands Centre for Public Administration, and of course the Pacific Ombudsman Alliance, which several people here are actually members of, even though they're Auditors General. The participating countries are the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Samoa, Tonga, Federated States of Micronesia and the Republic of the Marshall Islands. PNG was nominally part of it, but as the Ombudsman has a very strong twinning project with the Ombudsman Commission in PNG, and because their issues are somewhat bigger than most other Pacific Islands, we decided actually to concentrate on the First Nations. The program is working along around two pillars of support: the development of regional anti-corruption training and individualised support to improve the capacity of Ombudsman, Leadership Code Commissions, Auditors General and other integrity agencies to investigate and report on corruption, and to assist Pacific Ombudsman Alliance members and other integrity agencies in assessing administrative and criminal investigations. So the program is not specifically aimed at Ombudsman or Auditors General themselves, but their senior staff and experienced investigators. So this sort of fits in where the UNPRAC, the UN agencies, target mostly CEOs and parliamentarians and also civil society. We sort of fit in the middle, which is looking at integrity agencies. Expected program outcomes, or hope for program outcomes, that Pacific integrity agencies are investigating matters within their jurisdiction independently and publicly reporting on results of their investigations. The effective operation of integrity agencies has a deterrent effect on those attempting to use public resources for private gain, and for Pacific integrity agencies to be less vulnerable to political interference. So the activities to date, I've been in this project since only in the beginning of February this year, but there was another officer, Clinton Parker, who some of you may have met, who moved on early in the year. There was an anti-corruption workshop in Suva in June, July, which was in partnership with PICPA last year, and the topics of that were what is corruption, the importance of good record keeping and complaint handling in setting up robust anti-corruption processes. 6 integrity agency leaders from the Pacific attended the Australian Public Sector Anti-Corruption Conference last year as well. We had a tight group workshop in Nandi in February, which worked with just 6 or 7 officers from 4 countries to get evidence on their experiences of corruption processes and where the blockages were in anti-corruption processes. The countries involved were FSM, Marshall Islands, Samoa and Tonga, and looking at also to look at what factors were common across the Pacific. In Vanuatu, in partnership with the law and justice sector in Vanuatu, there was a very intensive investigations training event in April, which was aimed specifically at investigation officers at the Ombudsman, Leadership Code Commission, the Public Service Commission, the Land Ombudsman, and importantly the police internal investigations unit, so professional standards unit. In April, May, we had 2 activities in the Solomon Islands. The first one was developing an integrity agency referral mechanism between integrity agencies dealing with corruption matters, which was specifically so that they could refer complaints or information, whistleblower type actions, to the correct agency or the most appropriate agency. The very important was that we were invited to go there to help them develop this an MOU between the agencies. Its key aims were to pass on the complaints to the most appropriate agencies, but also to allow them to start to analyse the types of corruption events that were happening and to see why they happened, how they were allowed to happen, and whether or not there are any lessons to be learnt from those identified to actually, I guess, reduce the chance of it happening again. That MOU is with a number of agencies, and we're hoping that some of those will be signed in the near future. At the same time, we met with the Royal Solomon Islands Police Force, the Ombudsman, the Leadership Code Commission, the Auditor General, the Department of Public Prosecutions, the Public Service Commission, the Accountant General and Transparency International during 4 days, which was actually a first week of sitting. So it was quite amazing and showed their willingness to cooperate to provide some of the evidence that we were looking for around corruption process blockages. They were very open about providing information. We found that very valuable and hope to use that in the future. The other thing we're working on is an integrity agency network, which is regional. It's already up and it's actually quite active now between 4 countries. And we're hoping to broaden that. There's quite lively discussions going on issues such as conflict of interest and reasons for decisions and how important they are, particularly in procurement matters. We're also looking at developing a regional anti-corruption resource database for integrity agencies. Planned activities at this time was assigning an MOU with PICPA, which we did yesterday. Developing with PICPA a joint calendar of events of targeted evidence-based training specifically aimed at particular blockages or skills gaps with integrity agencies in dealing with anti-corruption matters. Developing jointly badged research papers and guidelines or pro forma on a number of things such as conflicts of interest, good decision making and reasons for decisions, assisting in the selection of integrity agency leaders. So how do you ensure that an integrity agency leader has integrity. This will build on some of the work we've done with advising governments on what are the key attributes of an ombudsman. Obviously something that we don't have an awful lot of influence on, but certainly can guide. And in addition, we will do 3 targeted activities or placements of specialist officers within 3 Pacific Island countries. One of them has already been the Solomon Islands. There may be another 3. So that, just to finish, some of the specific identified blockages that we've been told about from our meetings have largely been around corruption in government procurement processes, which is probably not surprising. A lack of conflict of interest guidelines and declaration forms, a lack of management or oversight of such processes and requirements to recognise and declare conflicts of interest. Where conflict of interest guidelines or indeed legislation exists, a failure to follow them. A failure to record reasons for decisions in procurement processes. So even if procurement processes follow, very often we are told that there is no reason why they chose the particular tenderer, for instance. A lack of effective procurement guidelines, limited resources, particularly around financial investigation skills, assessment skills and referrals. A lack of referral mechanisms between integrity agencies, which I've already mentioned. So referral to a more appropriate agency or for joint investigations of matters. Lack of integrity networks for cooperation, referral and sharing of skills and information. Again, this came from the agencies themselves. From the police themselves, as well as other agencies, about a lack of investigation skills around financial crime and corruption matters not being prioritised because it's much easier and much more popular politically and in the community to go after violent crime rather than financial crime, and issues around police corruption. We've actually received some information about the lack of independence of some integrity agencies and sometimes political interference in either the nomination of an integrity agency leader or political interference in investigations, and also, I guess, targeted undermining of integrity agencies by reducing funding. And the last issue that's come up so far was delay with prosecutors, and that can be for several reasons. They're overloaded, they don't have the skills in prosecuting financial crime, or they're waiting for, in particular, for better briefs of evidence from the integrity agencies or the police, which reflects back to the lack of skills in some of the investigators. So that's really where we're up to now. I'm very happy to communicate with anyone here. I think I've given out about enough cards. I'd really like to hear if anyone has any sort of information that would be useful or believe that this project may be able to assist. I'd be very happy to communicate with you, certainly by email or for the rest of today. Thank you very much, Parmesh.